All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's 10 Capital Network's Quick Pitch event here on today's Wednesday, featuring companies such as Avergy, BioVent, AppZero, WorldTree, AMGX, Fintegrate. And presenting in here, we have Paul Martin. Paul, if you want to go ahead and give us a summary about 10 Capital Network, who we are, and then go from there. Let's get us ourselves started.
Great. Thanks, David. And want to thank everybody for joining us today for another great round of presenters that we have here today. Looking forward to those in the audience asking great questions. And before we jump into it, let's talk about 10 Capital and what we do. So this is one of our virtual events that we're doing. At Heart 10 Capital helps startups and investors connect for funding. We work with the startup to get the fundraise strategy together, help prepare the campaign, and engage the investors, and most importantly, follow up to help close as well. In short, we provide the legwork, saving you time and money. We've been doing this for over 15 years now and have over 800 companies going through the program and have raised over $1 billion. Next slide. So we also help form capital for the early stage startup ecosystem. We help angel groups find members. We help high net worths start family offices because they fund emerging managers. And we help venture capitalists find limited partners primarily through family offices through our online and in-person events. Next slide. We have 4 online events that we do. We're in the quick pitch here today for tech companies. We also have a family office roundtable as a 2-hour session for high net worths who want to start and run a family office, as well as family offices themselves. And we also have a life science syndicate event where we bring in our life science deals as well. Each company gets 10 minutes to pitch, 5-minute Q&A, and then we poll investors in the audience for their interest. If you want to learn more about our events, go to 10capital.group and click on the events page, and you can see more about what we're doing there. Next slide. If you're a startup and you are interested in joining this group to pitch in our events, please take a picture of that QR code and fill out the form, and we'll follow up to see if this program is a good fit for your deal. Next slide. We also are moving greatly into AI. AI is rapidly changing the startup ecosystem. Today, 65% of startup investors are using AI to look at pitch decks and review deals, so it's coming very quickly. We also have an Investor Connect program. We've interviewed over 800 angel VC family offices on how they invest and what they invest in. And we also do a startup funding espresso, a 300-word micro blog post, and a 2-minute audio. In the time it takes to drink an espresso, you can learn something about startup funding and investing. And we put all that inside a chat box, which we call Ava. We're currently building out a private LLM so we can keep your data safe from outside. And so let's hear more about how this works.
Hi there. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ava, your personal AI venture assistant. I'm your new best friend in the world of investing in startups, the 10 Capital AI chatbot. I'm here to make your journey through the startup ecosystem easier, faster, and a lot more fun. Need help finding your next big investment? Or maybe you're a founder looking for fundraising tips? I've got you covered. I pull all my knowledge from over 500 blogs, countless podcasts, and even some nifty calculators, like the How Fundable Is Your Startup tool, to give you the answers you need. So how do I work? Easy. You simply go to where I live on startupfundingespresso.com and look for me in the bottom right. As soon as I appear, go ahead and click on me to let me know you're here. And then there you go. All your questions answered at your fingertips. Whether you're into health tech, biotech, life sciences, or any of the other exciting fields out there, I'm equipped to help you navigate the trends, challenges, and opportunities in each one. Got a question? Just ask. And guess what? I even pull insights from the 10 Capital Network podcast on Investor Connect. It's packed with expert advice, success stories, and more, all designed to help you succeed in the venture capital world. So what are you waiting for? Let's chat. I'm here 24/7 to help you find the right answers, connect with great opportunities, and make the most out of your investments. See you on startupfundingespresso.com.
Great. With that, let's go ahead and kick off with our first presenter. We have with us first Avergy. Francisco, if you want to launch your slides and kick off, Those in the audience, you have a chat bot there. Please post your questions there or in the Q&A, and we'll read them out in the Q&A portion of the session. After the end, we'll have breakout sessions so you can go meet people directly as well. With that, I'll let you go ahead and start, Francisco. We see your slides.
You see my slides. Okay, perfect. Okay, hello. So every minute, 70 airplanes take off, leaving a trail of carbon in their wake. Aviation is one of the hardest sectors to decarbonize, and yet it amounts to over 2% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. But what if flying could continue to connect us without having to cost the Earth? At Avergy, we're working to turn this vision into reality. The challenge is clear. Aviation is on track to double its emissions by 2050 if nothing changes. And while technology developments and efficiency of operations will help, these take decades to scale. Sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, is the one tool that can be deployed today and will be the most effective strategy to reach the net zero goal by 2050 that the industry has set. But what is SAF? SAF is a non-fossil fuel that can be used in current aircraft without modification and offers up to 90% of carbon emission reduction. It's a proven technology. It has been used in over 800,000 flights right up to now. And major airlines are already committing to using SAF with growing targets over the next 2 decades. So the market is ready. But yet, this SAF production can only supply up to 0.5% of the fuel needs for today. So the demand is expected to reach 3 billion gallons by 2030 in the US, creating a $22 billion market. And this will continue to grow at an annual rate of over 7% for the next 20 years. So scaling the supply is the key challenge here. But there are many barriers, among them policy uncertainty, technology risk, limited sustainable feedstock, and high production costs. Avergy tackles these barriers by through a cost-effective regional model based on an abundant local feedstock and together with proven technology designed to scale. Okay, so Avergy is integrating best-in-class proven solutions through the gasification and Fischer-Tropsch pathway to transform woody biomass into high-quality SAF. So if we go into the diagram really quick, we start with raw biomass, which is torrefied and converted into a coal-like material, which is then pulverized and injected into a gasifier. It converts this into a syngas, which is then cleaned from any contaminants and fed into a Fischer-Tropsch system, which synthesizes the crude oil, which will later be upgraded into SAF. So last January, we partnered with 2 major technology providers, GTI Energy and Velocis, to apply for a Department of Energy grant to build a demonstration scale facility. Now, the decision has been delayed and is uncertain, but this experience helped us validate our approach, clarify our priorities, and reinforce our strategy. So Avergy stands apart by using abundant and sustainable feedstock together with proven technology. While most SAF today is based on scarce and food-linked resources, such as used cooking oil in the HEFA pathway, Avergy is using woody biomass, which is non-food and non-deforestation inducing, together with proven technology to produce this SAF. And this gives us a path, this allows us to get a certifiable, scalable SAF output, together with from strong feedstock availability, with a high carbon reduction of over 90%, while maintaining a competitive production cost. And not only that, it's also future-proof, meaning that this pathway can evolve towards power to liquid as green hydrogen becomes economically feasible. This is all supported by a strong team of experts in aviation, energy, engineering, and project management. While the founder team brings extensive experience in aviation strategy, Project Director Brent Napton offers over 30 years in energy and project management, and technical advisor Bruno Cateni brings deep expertise in gasification and renewable fuels. So why now? While global policy momentum is accelerating, Avergy is positioning to capitalize on this. So governments around the world are enacting mandates, incentives, and setting carbon targets for the next decades. In the US, there are federal and state taxes incentives in place, while in the EU, there are mandates ramping up over the next 2.5 decades, up to 70% SAF usage in 2050, together with an eSAF mandate. So as policy tailwinds grow stronger, Avergy is using a scalable and low carbon SAF pathway is built for compliance and advantage. So in our first year, Avergy has laid the groundwork to address key risks. And this has been based on a sound strategy using local sustainable feedstock together with the proven technology pathway, building an integration expertise through a demonstration plant, which is expected to be developed over the next 2 years. And we're also future ready with the ability to evolve into eSAF and methanol. We have also seen early traction with support from major Latin American airlines flying into the US, showing a good market demand. So we have advanced conversations with partners across feedstock technology and technical know-how, all aligned to support scale-up. And most importantly, we've assembled a strong cross-disciplinary team with deep expertise in aviation, public policy, energy, and project management. So together we have put a clear roadmap, which will take us to build a demonstration plant by 2027, allowing us to supply SAF to our customers, while de-risking the integration for future big and much bigger commercial plants. And then we will move forward to building the first commercial scalable plant, which will be ready by 2030 with a capacity of 10 million gallons a year. By 2034, we expect to have our second plant in place, which will help us target up to 5% of the 7.5 billion US South SAF market. So SAF brings a high growth, high margin market. And Avergy aims to have its initial revenue by 2027 with the demonstration plant and reach positive cash flow by 2030 with the first commercial plant. The early milestones, including the demonstration plant validation, feedstock agreements, and airline offtake agreements, are set to de-risk execution while generating meaningful value for future funding rounds, supporting an expected project IRR of 47%. And the returns are not only financial. Avergy brings also significant environmental benefits. In the next 10 years, it is expected that Avergy will reduce the carbon emissions by the equivalent of 10,000 long-haul flights from New York to London, or the amount of carbon absorbed by 18 million tree seedlings growing for 10 years. So now we're looking for seed investment to move forward on our next milestones. The seed investment ask is being divided into 2 tranches, offering first movers a financial incentive. For the first tranche, we're looking for 650,000 on safe notes based on a pre-money valuation of $6 million. And the funds will be used to advance on feasibility studies, engineering, and determining the location of our plants. So in summary, aviation urgently needs SAF, and Avergy has a scalable solution based on proven technology and local sustainable feedstock. And we have put the right team to make it happen. Thank you.
Great, thanks. If those in the audience can put their questions in the chat box, my first question is, sustainable aviation fuels depend upon feedstocks. What feedstock are you using and how ample is it towards scalability?
Right. So the feedstock we're using is woody biomass waste, which counts with a lot of benefits using this. The first thing is the US produces over 30 million tons of woody waste every year, which can be converted into around 2.5 billion gallons of SAF. And it's located, how we call it, it's together in lumber mills, and it's easier to access as long as you are in a woody region. That's why Avergy is looking to locate itself in the US South.
Great. Can you talk about the regulatory requirements to bring a product like this to market? What are the rules and what are the challenges you have to overcome to get there?
Right. So there's an approval process. For this, there are already some pathways that have been approved and some pathways that are being worked towards. So the approved path, in the case of Avergy, we're using an approved pathway, which is gasification fisher traps. That accelerates the approval process quite a bit. It still takes a few months from the time we start producing SAF to the time we can sell it. And this SAF will be blended together with regular, I mean, with fossil fuel jet fuel. So yes, and going back to the incentives. So once this approval is the SAF is approved, we can access a lot of tax incentives both on the federal and state level in the US. And this particular pathway, together with this feedstock, also allows us to pass some of the most rigorous approvals needed to go into to markets like the EU, where they're putting a lot more more barriers on what feedstock can be used and the amount of carbon that needs to be reduced to get there.
Great. And what agreements do you have in place with the potential customers to buy the product when it's available?
So we have 2 letters of support already from 2 Latin American airlines flying to the US, coming from countries that are looking to set mandates, working on mandates. And well, this being a push factor for them. We're also in advanced conversations with other airlines and have engaged with different companies from the US, which are looking to get their stuff from different places as they consume a huge amount of fuel. No, but yeah, on the customer side, those are the major advances.
And what grants and subsidies are available for sustainable aviation fuels, and which ones are you going for?
Grants and stuff. So the grants have been stalled a bit. But there are many towards technologies towards the acceleration of technologies and bringing more pathways to market. One of the ones that we were looking to leverage was the one I mentioned together with GTA and Velocis, where we would access the entrained flow gasification, which is one of the newer ways to do gasification. I mean, it's been around for some decades now, but it hasn't gotten as much maturity as other gasification processes. But the important thing, and the reason why we were looking for it, is that by using higher temperatures, it produces different contaminants, and the operation itself, it becomes a lot cheaper.
Great. And where does the technology come from, and what patents do you have in place?
Where the technology, well, first the technology. So the 2 major technologies, gasification and filter traps, come from external technology providers, which they license their technology. And right now we don't have patents, but we're working towards the integration, which is the newer part, because both gasification and filter traps have existed for years, but they haven't been used together to turn woody biomass into fuel as much. I mean, there are some developments in Europe, so it's something that it's proven, but it's not at a commercial scale. And we're building our expertise both on the feedstock preparation and the integration, and well, most of our patents will be around that.
And what's the most likely exit path for the company when the time comes?
What we have seen as the most likely exit pathway is a private purchase from a company in the energy sector trying to advance their SAP capabilities.
Okay, great. And that's our 15 minutes. Thanks so much for a great presentation.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to our next presenter. We have with us next BioVen. Mark, if you can launch your slides and kick off when you're ready.
Excellent. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Can you see my screen all right?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, let's get going then. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. We are BioVen. We are bringing to market a simple, fast, portable detection platform for use in the oil and gas industry. There is nothing sexy or flashy about detecting microbes that cause corrosion in oil and gas pipelines and storage tanks, but it is a huge real-world problem. There are still more than 100 leaks every year, and that means it's harmful gas releases every 3 days in America. The industry knows it's a problem, and through their years of investigation, they determined that between 20 and 40% of those leaks are caused by corrosion. It's been induced by bacteria. It's become a well-known problem in the industry, and billions are now spent every year trying to mitigate the potential for damage. The challenge of the current approach is that to identify corrosion caused by microbes in the oil and gas industry, they go out and they take physical samples monthly or weekly from different areas in their facility, and they have to laboriously prepare those samples for transport by wrapping them up, packaging them in coolers, finally getting to like a FedEx somewhere, shipping them off-site to a centralized laboratory for testing. And then those tests take anywhere from 2 weeks to a month to produce results to confirm which microbes are actually inducing the corrosion in their systems. And then during that delay, the owner-operators have little choice but to implement preemptive biocide treatments that generally cost tens of thousands of dollars. Then, after the lab results are finally received, they analyze them retroactively to understand whether they made the right treatment choice or not, and determine how they should modify their treatment plan, and whether to execute another costly treatment application, while they then take more samples and they wait for more results, and the cycle continues. But with BioVen, our technology allows them to turn 30 days into just 30 minutes. Using our rapid results, they can craft their treatment plan the same day, initiate targeted applications in real time with current data, knowing which microbes are actually in their system causing that corrosion. So by cutting down their time frame from weeks to a single day, they save time, they save money, they're increasing their ability to target specific destructive species with the right biocides and the right application schedule to mitigate the risk of corrosion and damage in their facilities. So how does it work? We have exclusive license for a patented technology developed over several years by a federally funded laboratory. It addresses the market pain points right at their source. Using isothermonucleic acid amplification, our solution provides the same level of sensitivity and specificity as a traditional centralized lab, but we do it in a handheld system that accurately identifies the presence of up to 18 target microbes from a single sample on site in 30 minutes at a price point below our competitors without the need for any highly specialized training. And just as an aside, because you guys see these pictures every week, you already recognize that this is a platform technology. So using the same device and the same cartridge with customized assays, we can detect DNA or RNA from a sample, including viruses or bacteria, especially those that impact animals and humans. So back to oil and gas and our competitors. Most operators have been using culture-based testing for years, and the challenges with those are pretty well known. Many operators also adopted ATP about 10 years ago, but that only tells you the total number of bacteria, not if it's good bugs or bad bugs. And then finally, qPCR, that's those centralized labs, right? They're as accurate as we are, but they're slow and expensive and require highly trained scientists to accurately produce those usable results. We provide our solution to our customers using just a simple and effective razor model, right? Buy the base station instrument at a reasonable price. We make significant revenues from these single-use disposable cartridges. Our customers are excited because they save money on the instrument, they save money on the test, they save time when they get the results so quickly, and they can see improvement in their process immediately. And then looking to the future revenue streams, as we enable more rapid, low-cost testing, that volume of data available to the industry about where MIC occurs and when MIC occurs allows us to begin building that AI to start predicting corrosion and packaging that into revenue streams as well. So here's what the market looks like, focusing just on our primary adopters. That's Houston, LA, San Diego, San Francisco. We see more than $80 million in annual revenues. The market's attainable because we are gaining a really strong foothold in that oil and gas market through proving ourselves with our current on-site work with the highly influential folks at the nation's largest natural gas utility, which I can tell you is SoCalGas, And then we also have a one coming up at the end of the summer with Hess, who is a leading independent energy company who have global operations. And we're building our relationship with our seasoned corrosion specialist who has reached throughout that target market. We arrived at these numbers, by the way, based on deep customer research and on-site discussions. And what we found was that our users are going to require about an average of 25 or so cartridges per month for testing as they integrate this into their current process for that first year. But after that first year, that subsequent need expands to 63 cartridges per month for the life of the device. So we have two sales pipelines, right? We're building from the oil and gas extraction, distribution, processing companies. You know those are Exxon and Chevron and Kinder Morgan, those big ones. And then there's those third-party asset integrity providers who provide the actual maintenance and repairs on those pipelines and storage tanks. That's the Schlumbergers, the Halliburtons, and the Baker Hughes. Our estimated customer acquisition cost is about $6,600, and then our lifetime value is $26,000. So, sounds great, right? Well, let's be clear about how we got to this inflection point, because it didn't happen overnight, and it took a lot of work. So back in 2022, we got our hands on the technology that had been developed for several years at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. They finally patented it. We worked to determine if that technology could reliably produce the results necessary to be commercialized successfully. And at that point, we partnered with Enhancco, Tom over there, who's just this great old oil guy. They're the oil and gas corrosion service provider. They got 40 years of experience in the sector. And as soon as we talked to Tom, they committed $160,000 of in-kind support for testing out our technology. Then through a competitive process, we actually beat out large institutions like UCLA. We were awarded a $1 million California Energy Commission grant to refine the technology and produce a functional kit. We secured an exclusive license on the technology, and we secured an agreement with SoCalGas, the nation's largest gas utility in the United States, to test the solution in their live system, who then provided more cash and in-kind funding to us as well. So we're literally in the field with the corrosion teams, pulling samples, gathering firsthand practical insight into how our technology fits into their existing operations. We've opened our lab space in San Diego to produce our assays and our cartridges. We developed and tested and validated 2 assays so far, with 6 more in their late stages of validation. They correctly identify MIC microbes in the oil and gas samples that we've pulled already. We completed our first on-site hardware test with our alpha partner. And then we've just finished building our most recent handheld functional unit to take into the field for pilot testing, which is happening actually on site in SoCal next week, on site with them. And our CEC, our grant provider, is really excited about it. They're actually sending one of the regulators out who are going to join us because they want to see the technology in person. So it's a really, really exciting month for us. This is where you come in. The opportunity in our ask of you is to support the additional assay development, the customer-driven enhancements to the base station to make it even better, faster, and stronger, and our remaining pilot demonstrations with the largest oil and gas utility in America, as well as Hess. We have the technology, we have the core team, we have the network, and with your support, we deliver a game-changing technology to an industry that is so in need of our hardware that they've already committed more than $1 million in non-dilutive cash just for the chance to have our technology used in their facility. But you know, and I know that success won't just happen. It takes the people, it takes the right people to continue this trajectory and continue the momentum that we've built to date. We have a balanced team of technical and scientific and financial and entrepreneurial talent with industry network, academic credentials, and real-world experience to continue to build on the early success of this company and accomplish this mission. We have a known problem in this industry. We have a solution that is ready to go and being tested in the field right now. This first market is large and getting bigger by the day, and we have the momentum to carry this through to commercialization and profitability. This is a significant opportunity to solve a critical problem for the oil and gas industry. We have the technology, the traction, and the team to do it. And I'd be happy to take your questions at this time.
Great. Those in the audience can post their questions in the chat box. That'd be great. And my first question is, for the test next week, what exactly is the test trying to prove? What is the customer looking for before making a decision to go forward?
Sure. So this is part of the grant that we're proving to the regulator that we have built exactly what they have asked us to build. For SoCalGas, what they want to see is that it actually works on site from start to end. So that's the sample prep itself. That's the cartridge works. You can put the stuff in there, it doesn't leak, everything's good. You put it in the machine works, and the data comes out. And we have done that in the lab now 100 times, and now we're going to do it out in the field again, just like we tried. In the previous one, we actually had 4 times that we were out there with SoCalGas. On that third one, we had our technology ready, and we were able to show it using a spike sample. And now we're going to use it with the real samples that are out there. So they're just the next progression of, yep, it works, it works, it works, great, it works, let's go.
Great. What are the competitive solutions? What are you up against when these things, as far as time, cost, and money to perform the same solution?
Yeah, so everybody's using bug bottles, which is basically you take your samples and you get a syringe and you stuff it into these bottles in a serial dilution fashion, and you're out in the middle of out in the middle of nowhere on the back of a truck and trying to stab these bottles. They get it in there and then they got to take them back and they ship them to those centralized locations and they literally culture these bacteria for 30 days. It takes 30 days to build this stuff. And so then 30 days later, you get a call that says, "Yep, you got Pseudomonas. It looks bad. Good luck." The other issue is that methanogens, some of these bacteria you can't actually culture. So the Aliso Canyon leak was actually caused by a methanogen, which is a type of bacteria that is anaerobic. And so we can detect it because we're DNA based, and we can find it, but you can't even culture that. So there was no way for them to really know that it was there unless they sent it to a qPCR lab. The challenge with qPCR, and there is one other competitor that has a portable qPCR, is that you got to do DNA extraction out in the field, which is terrible, right? It's dirty, it's muddy, it's crazy, because qPCR is really, really, really sensitive to dirt and junk. LAMP, the technology we're using, can take those much dirtier samples. So we do have a prep process where we built a proprietary solution that cleans it and shakes it and separates it and lyses it, and so you get really good DNA out of it, even from the junky samples.
And great. What are the regulatory requirements here? What hurdles do you have to overcome to get to market with it?
So that's one of the reasons that we chose oil and gas as our first market. So in the human sector, to human, we got to get our FDA, we got to get all of our 510K and that sort of thing. In animal, you got to go there through USDA or FDA, which is why we chose oil and gas. The regulations are on the oil and gas folks themselves to keep their operations clean and leak free. So that really, really helps us. There's nothing that I have to do to say, hey, my product is certified. I just have to show that it works, which in oil and gas is a big deal because it's a small community and they talk. So what the approach that we're taking with SoCal Gas is we want to show you that it works, and we're taking their feedback, we're making it better every time we see them so that they feel comfortable saying, yeah, this is what we use. Because if the largest natural gas producer in America uses it, the next guy's going to use it, and the next guy's going to use it, and the next guy's going to use it.
Great. And what can you tell us about the exit strategy here? What's the most likely exit for it?
Yeah, so most likely we're going to get bought up by somebody like Baker Hughes, and we're going to have our product integrated into their solutions. But we can carve off and sell just the oil and gas part of that. So as we sell the oil and gas part, we start ramping up the animal focus. So we're looking at bovine respiratory disease with the USDA, and then moving into things like industrial testing in hospitals. So do you have Pseudomonas in your oxygen lines, and that's why everybody's still getting sick in your operating room? And then finally to hospitals and doctors' offices so they can do tests bedside, and then eventually into homes. You wake up, you got a cough, you don't know what you got, you do a swab, put in the machine, go take a shower. 30 minutes later, it tells you, do you have flu A, flu B, bird flu, COVID, whatever's going on with you. So the opportunities for exit are actually multiple. We start off with oil and gas, and we move from there.
Where's the technology come from, and what do you have in the way of a moat around the business so far?
Yeah, so a couple of really good ones. So first of all, we have exclusive license. We have both patents here with Lawrence Livermore National Lab. The original patent was funded by the U.S. government, so there's robust protections where people don't want to mess with that, which is great. Otherwise, we also have the stuff that we have built internally that we're not going to patent, but it's the internal skills that we bring. So the Bohr Lab solution that we've created to clean and lyse the samples themselves, the cartridge beads that we have built, the assays themselves, and making sure that those actually work within our machine. So there's multiple layers to protect our IP.
Great. Is there a data play in here somewhere?
There is. So one of the biggest challenges, and one of the things actually we're now friends with UCLA, is that there are this hope that you can predict where corrosion is going to happen next. The problem is that these tests are just so expensive and so much work that there's just not a lot of data. With ours, you can start ramming through data really, really fast, and I can do 18 tests every time. So that amount of data starts to build up, and we can start building that into actual corrosion prediction models. So we actually have about $40,000 worth of credits with Microsoft Azure right now as part of their small business group, and I am building that as we speak. I was actually on the phone with them last night, so that is also our next move.
Great. That's our 15 minutes. Thanks so much for a great presentation.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Next up is AngieX. Jeff, if you can launch your slides and kick off when you're ready.
All right, there we go. Let's get a picture. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can. You're good to go.
Excellent. I'm not sure why I still see BioVin slides, but anyway, uh, thank you everybody for taking the time to listen to us today. So AngieX is a biotechnology company. I'll be straight up with you. We're a biotechnology company. We're in the clinic, and we have a therapeutic and a platform for attacking and resolving solid tumors. Okay, I know that sounds like a very big and vast field, but we are highly differentiated in a very exciting area of cancer therapeutics called ADCs. And we've got the power of multi-mechanisms to attack solid tumors. And, quite frankly, we're looking for $5 to $10 million in total, where you can participate in that to help us move further down the road in our runway for our phase 1 trial, whereas the use of proceeds will get us additional data that could and should create a nice value inflection point for investors within the next 12 to 18 months. So what's the problem here? Obviously, everybody knows folks who have had cancer, right? But despite advances in cancer therapeutics, we're still early innings in solving cancer, whether it's through monotherapies or through combinations. And that's because cancer is very smart, okay? Due to cancer tumors' ability to grow blood vessels, number one, and remember this because it's one of our mechanisms of action. Two is they evade the immune system very well, and hence you get recurrence and resistance down the road to many of the therapeutics that are out there now. And three is they metastasize, so they don't stay in one place. They move all over the body, and they become very lethal when they do that. And so existing therapeutics fail to address these mechanisms. Some of them do address one, but we address several of them. So what's the solution here? AngieX, our vision is using biology from TM4SF1 as one of the major components of our antibody drug conjugate, again, ADC. And basically what an ADC is, for just basics on the biology, is you've got a homing mechanism, which is the antibody, which moves towards an antigen, and you've got a delivery system that has a payload, like a bomb, in this case a chemotherapy, that's attached, and it evades all different normal cells in the body to basically attack the tumor cell. Okay, that's the basics of it. Here, we've got three mechanisms of action. One is because we're based in angiogenesis, that's where TM4SF1 is, and I'll give you the history in a moment. Because we destroy the tumor vasculature, we deprive the tumor of blood supply, so food and water and air. Okay. Number two is we kill the invasive tumor cells, which end up potentially metastasizing, not in the cytoplasm, which is the outer layer, but we go into the nucleus of those cells, and that's why it's called a nuclear ADC. We go into the nucleus, destroy the cell from the inside out, and that also thwarts the potential for smart DNA to adapt and become resistant to the tumors. And 3 is because we're angiogenicists, okay, so angiogenic, we affect the vasculature, we affect blood vessels effectively, similar to you getting a scratch or a wound on your arm. What happens is we affect the tumor's vasculature, lighting it up with a lesion similar to the scratch or the wound on your arm, and that, like infrared for a scoping heat-seeking missile, enables a very a very large revenue PD-1 or checkpoint inhibitors to then attack these cells as well. So another mechanism utilizing a drug that's already been approved, that's a multi-billion-dollar drug out there. We light up the tumor or make it hot, whereas it's been cold. And so where are we? We're in phase 1. Like I said earlier, there's some excitement here. We've got a solid safety profile thus far, and we're in dose escalation, which basically means we're continuing to gather data around both the toxicity, both the tox profile and the potential signal efficacy of this drug product for various types of tumors. So we're taking all comers and we're parsing out the data as we get it. And I'll go over that a little bit more in a bit. So, again, basics. What is it? It's an ADC, antibody drug conjugate. It's been developed over the past 20 years by Beth Israel and Harvard Medical School. The folks who've been a part of this are some of the founders of many drugs in the angiogenic field. So a lot of intelligence, a lot of puzzle solving, a lot of thought has gone into this, and they have incubated this biology in this product to a very high level, whereas a lot of drugs get put through translation from the universities into the mainstream, and maybe they have one mechanism and maybe they have some issues down the road in terms of tox. This has been highly thought about. So what are the 3 mechanisms? I'll go through this. So in terms of the drug, let me head this off because it's been one of Hall's questions. We have 12 patent families, very deep, both very deep moat and a very high fence, both in terms of composition of matter, around some clinical data as well, and really strong freedom to operate for this molecule. We've had Wilson Sonsini working for the company for a very long time, their IP department. 3 mechanisms of action. Let's starve and suffocate the tumor, okay? And you can see the results of obliterating tumor vessels. Here it is in a mouse model over time. I'm not going to go through the science, but we can in a breakout. Second mechanism of action, this is where we light up at low doses the tumor microenvironment and basically shining a light on it so that the checkpoint inhibitors, again, billions and billions of dollars of drugs from BMS, Merck, and others, can now attack tumors that they're not approved for yet because they're cold tumors. We heat them up. And then the last is this invasive piece where we're getting into the nucleus and we're destroying the tumor cell from the inside out, which also, if you're destroying inside where all the DNA is in the nucleus and you're cutting off the head, then it's very hard for the tumor cells to further adapt and create resistance, which they do to other therapeutics that are out there. what's the size? How important is this? The market is very large. I won't go through exactly how large it is because we don't know yet, because we don't know. We're early in our phase one in determining which tumors to go after first, but we're anti-angiogenic, and Avastin had a long history of many, many millions, billions of dollars. We can help the Ketruders and the Yervoys of the world and the checkpoint inhibitors by lighting up the tumor microenvironment. And most importantly, this is TM4SF1. Okay, this is a logarithmic depiction of the antigen in various types of tumors. And we're the blue line. So we are more prevalent than any other antibody in most of these different tumors. That's very important because that's your homing mechanism. And you want specificity, you want to be able to home into the tumor so that you don't have any off-tumor effects and hence toxicity to the rest of the body, but you also want to have a multiple of killing effects to make sure you take out that tumor. Therapeutic margin. So here, this is how have we been doing so far? What have we seen so far? And this is the primate model for efficacy, right? Which is a must before you get approval to go into humans. We have and again, this is beyond mouse. This is primate, and we have a very, very high conviction therapeutic margin, the highest that there has been out there. And it makes sense. You saw the previous chart, right, where we have high expression. So it makes a lot of sense that we would have that kind of therapeutic margin. History of TM4SF1. Is this new, Jeff? Are we the first ones to utilize this antibody? So we're not. And it was the same team at BI and Harvard that helped out Bristol Myers in the early days, but they abandoned their ADC for two reasons. And so I want you to understand the two reasons very closely here. One is that their antibody was non-humanized, which means that once you put it in the human body, the body's natural immune system is going to start attack that, and these patients got sick. Two is, instead of putting a chemotherapy on the end of it as the payload, they put a radioisotope. So they put something that was really nuclear, and they had problems with radioactivity, beta emitting radioactivity. So immune system didn't like it because it was murine chimeric, and two is it had a radioisotope payload. They didn't like it. They abandoned it. We thought that our team wanted to continue with it because the efficacy was very impressive at limited doses because of the radioactivity and others, but the antigen itself, mechanism of action number one that I went through earlier, had really good performance. So they stayed with it and built all the moats and the fence around the IP for the subsequent 10, 15 years. So where are we headed? We are in the dose escalation. So far so good biologically, even though we're not at doses that are stopping the cancer in its track yet, because we have to escalate to those doses. Our hypothesis is that when we get to the 4.5 mg per kg or 6.7, we'll be in that sweet spot. We're not there, but Jeff, on our way there, and the FDA makes you do this, on our way there, we've seen very convincing biologic effects related to the patients, the 15 patients who have been on that drug, on the drugs.
You have 1 minute left.
I have 1 minute left. Okay. So let me wrap up here. So we're exploring in both monotherapy, angiosarcoma, and all-comer solid tumors, combination therapy with those big checkpoint inhibitors, multi-billion dollar markets. Let me skip all the way down to, value inflection point, right? We're here, clinical. We're heading towards proof of concept with this 5 million. We hit proof of concept, clinical efficacy. You can see that, our 40 million today could become $1 billion within a year. The team, which is very important. So Paul's not here today. Otherwise, he probably would have gone through this quicker than I did. But I wanted you to hear from me as to how I view it as an ex-Goldman Sachs investment banker and many years as a CFO as well, which you can see down here, but not as important as Glenn. Lots of experience in oncology clinical trials, and Morris was the guy at Immunomedics and Seattle Genetics, $60 billion of sale of both companies, if you add the two together, in the ADC space. He's one of the guys in the space. Brian Clark also. So we have a very deep board. Here are the two scientists who brought it out of Harvard BI. Hal Dvorak is the founder of VEGF. Multiple drugs under his belt that have been approved and saved millions of lives. Come join us and have something very special to talk to people at the dinner table. Certainly, if as we progress in this clinical trial and we get more evidence, this could be something very, very special.
Great. We have time for two questions. The first is, how much are you raising right now and on what valuation?
Yeah, so we're raising 5 million and a 40 million pre. That'll get us multiple patients with hopeful responses. They'll also enable us to expand our clinical sites from the current 3 to another 6. All sort of sites that you would know, from MD Anderson to Memorial Sloan Kettering, et cetera.
And the second question is, at what point on the FDA path or approval, where do you plan to exit? Where's the most likely exit, given you're in phase 1 right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, we're looking to accessing liquidity next year, the end of next year. If we get the right data package, we're going to take the company public. Granted, the markets will have to be a little better than they are right now, but with the right data package, which we're hopeful in generating, we should be able to do that. And that will provide some access to liquidity. And then down the road, I didn't have a chance to show this slide, but down the road here, when we're closer to BLA, we have the full phase 2 data package closer to BLA. It'll likely be that one of these partners who we want to do co-development, co-commercialization will end up just wanting the whole platform and take us out.
Great. And that's our 15 minutes. Thanks so much for a great presentation. With that, we'll post the poll here in a moment. And in the meantime, let's move to our next presenter, WorldTree. Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks, Hall. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's see. Let me see if I can get these up. Can everybody see that? Okay.
Yes, you can.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Doug Wilmore, the CEO of WorldTree, and I really appreciate you. Let's see. Is that still?
We don't have your slides up here. They're coming now.
There we go.
Now we see them. Go ahead.
Okay. Perfect. Really appreciate being able to speak to everybody. WorldTree is disrupting the $170 billion finished lumber market in the United States. And we need a new kind of lumber. Why? The demand continues to increase. We can't grow timber fast enough to be able to keep up with demand, as well as we have some really important species that are approaching commercial extinction: birch, ash, cedar, redwood, things like that, that are no longer available. People in these industries are frantically looking for replacements. So our solution, and we have tremendous traction, is growing the fastest growing hardwood tree in the world in the United States. We're the first company to ever do that commercially. There's been small, 15, 20 acre growers, but nothing like what we've done. You can see on the screen there, the the bottom left-hand corner, an 18-month-old tree that's on one of our farms in Costa Rica. That tree in the middle, 10 years old, which is when we typically harvest, 8 to 12 years. That's a 10-year-old tree in Tennessee, 18 inches in diameter, 60 feet tall, and it produces really beautiful lumber when we harvest it. You know, Bloomberg said about us, we already have the world's best carbon capture technology. So when you get a really friendly species like this that grows so rapidly, it also sequestered carbon at almost 4 times the rate of other similar trees that you grow in farms like this. And so it's very friendly, supports biodiversity, it's non-invasive, really helps the soil. And then the most amazing thing is after we harvest it in 10 years, the tree will regrow from the stump, and it will do that for up to 5 generations. It's just a market anomaly that no one has ever commercialized this species in North America, mainly because there's no data available on how to grow it, what genotypes to use, what operational details to follow. We've developed that over 9 years of R&D and planting, so we have an exclusive ownership of all that data inside our company. Let's see, there we go. So these are just some examples of some of the products we're producing, the markets we're selling into on the left, the name brand companies like Gibson Guitars, Fender Guitars, Bunsen Boats, an electric boat manufacturer in North Carolina. The biggest issue we have in the market right now is lack of supply. We don't have enough supply. We harvest our first farms next year. We've actually been purchasing and harvesting and milling small independent growers, 15, 20 acres. President Jimmy Carter is a great example of that, visionary that he was. 20 years ago, he took 15 acres of his peanut farm in Plains, planted them in empress trees. They grew to maturity. He didn't really know what to do with them, and someone put him in touch with us. We purchased his lumber and have sold it into the market. It's a really, really valuable lumber, the highest strength to weight ratio of any timber on the planet, known as the aluminum of lumber, and very, very stable and finishes very, very well. It's a $170 billion wholesale market in North America that we're addressing. We'd have to be so many times larger to be even making a significant dent in that right now. But again, you can see veneers, marine uses, cabinets, furniture, musical instruments, and so on. We're focusing on the Finnish market where we compete very, very well. We don't need a supreme pricing. We can simply price ourselves as replacements for shortages and other things like that. You can see competitively, no one else is growing this genotype in North America at scale. Again, it's all very small growers. There's no other truly renewable regenerative lumber on the market. This would be truly the first of its kind. You know, bamboo's a great example. It's a fiber, but still it competes in the wood business. Bamboo went from a zero market to $80 billion market over 40 years, primarily because it's more sustainable. There's no other significant factors to the benefits of that wood. It's renewable and it's sustainable. Let's see. There we go. So some of the customers we have right now, we have 15 repeat customers, some of those name brands that I told you about. The biggest issue we have, again, is lack of supply. We're really excited about being able to harvest our first farms next year. We're selling at premium prices into the market to manufacturers. That's $6 a board foot. It's above what we've always modeled. And prices in this industry continue to rise. You know, it's not often that people get to invest into the forestry or timber space at this scale, especially as a growth company, no pun intended. But most investments into forestry and timber, very slow growth, very stable, sort of utility grade returns. We have the potential of being that 10x, 20x that people want to see and want to get as we get a real footprint in this growing market. This is where we're at right now. We actually have 7,000 acres planted, over 375 farms. We've raised $17 million of non-dilutive capital. That's in a subsidiary to plant all these trees. The lumber and just the first harvest of what we have in the ground is worth well over $300 million right now. We've got 18 exclusive genotypes, and then above all, what I spoke to before, we've got 9 years of R&D that we own ourselves, so that even any other large competitor, if they wanted to come into this space to say, hey, this is a really good genotype, we should start to grow, they would take 7 to 9 years of R&D on the ground themselves to be able to develop what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, where they're going to plant it, and the nutrition regimen and things like that. This gives you a great idea. This is an 8-month-old tree last fall at one of our farms in Costa Rica. As you could see from the map before, we grow almost exclusively in the southeastern US, Mexico, and Costa Rica. We focus on long growing seasons. We stay away from coastal areas, so no hurricane risk. But we also stay out of drought areas, and so we don't have fire risks, and we don't need to irrigate. And so that's what allows us to be in, that's what draws us to the southeastern US and Costa Rica and an area of Mexico that's really an ideal growing places for our trees. So we're raising capital to supplement what we already have, and really we're ready to scale to go from the 7,000 acres to more than 50,000 acres over the next 3 years. We do that by developing institutional grade projects. These are much larger, 2 to 5 to 8,000 acres that we develop and then partner with institutional investors like Shell and Nestle and other funds and banks who want to invest in nature-based projects for a variety of reasons. The carbon offtake is one of them. But these projects are very, very profitable. You see 21% IRR on one project in Costa Rica. And the feedback we have from the market is they love these projects, but they need a pipeline. And that's why we're raising capital to develop out a pipeline of more than 40,000 acres that we can then take to the institutional market and expand in that way. These projects are really unique. We actually grow trees along with crops that cash flow in year 2. Very, very positive for the environment, for the soil, for carbon drawdown, and then multiple revenue streams as well. Just a snapshot of projected revenues for World Tree Technologies. That's us, the parent corporation. This is from trees already in the ground. And so we're EBITDA positive next year. And so I tell people there's a really high floor to this investment, very, very low risk to losing something or losing all because you're investing in a company with so many assets already in the ground and ready to harvest and take to market. Got a really great team, successful exit for myself and the healthcare business, several successful exits on our board, and over $1 billion capital raised from our board. And we've got a great team across 5 countries. So again, we're raising, it's about a $7 million total raise. We've already raised $3.5 million. The pricing that we've done is really just the net present value of the first harvest of our trees in the ground. Doesn't even include the second and third harvest of what's already there. It's a pre-money valuation. And so with that, I'd love to take any questions that anybody has.
Great. We have several questions in the chat box. You've answered some of it already, but maybe you want to give a little bit more color. The first question is, what regions of the country can you grow these trees in?
You can grow them in any region, depends on the genotype you use. We focus on the Southeast because we'll get a 10-year harvest instead of 13 or 14 years if we were growing them in Missouri, for example. So for us, we're growing in Alabama, Georgia, North Florida, South Carolina, places like that in the US, as well as Costa Rica and a region of Mexico.
Next question is, would they grow in Texas? I saw several dots in the Texas area, but maybe you could tell us where in Texas they're currently growing or you plan to grow.
Yeah, they can and they could, and it really depends on the area. Austin used to be a really great place for us. And I tell you, it's gotten so darn hot over the last few years. We had a really great farmer there that started a farm with us, and I think he had 30 days over 100 degrees, which our trees love warm and moisture, but yeah, it was too hot. So we're at work on doing some trials there to develop a better genotype that will withstand higher temperatures. So it really depends on the area and where we would be.
Next question, and I guess this is in general, how many trees per acre and what is the potential revenue per acre that comes from that?
Yeah, 160 trees per acre. The revenue really figures out when we harvest in 8 or 10 years, about $80,000 of net revenue, $80,000 per acre of net revenue. So very, very profitable. One of the ways to look at it, and one of the reasons the returns are so high compared to other forestry type projects, you're getting 2 or 3 harvests in the time that you'd really only have one with another, like a teak or something like that. So typically, we try not to do monoculture on a big scale. So we do the 160 trees per acre as a way to also allow us to do crops along with that, or silvopasture or things like that.
What's the impact of carbon credits on your business model?
Yeah, it's positive, but we've really designed these projects so they don't depend on carbon. So for example, if you look at that project in Costa Rica, and I may cycle back to it, it had about $120 million in revenue over that like 12-year period. And about 5 million of that is from carbon credits revenue. So it's valuable revenue. It comes in years 4 and 5, so it reduces your equity needs, but it's not significant as far as the return. The projects are focused on returns from crops and timber as opposed to carbon only.
Great. And what's the exit strategy here at this point? What's the vision for the long haul?
Yeah, the common thing in our industry is it's an acquisition-based industry. When larger companies see competitors, the first thing they do is try and acquire. We expect that. The other thing that's cropped up in our industry is more and more acquisitions by supply side or by off takers. And so, for example, IKEA is one of the biggest buyers of timberland in the United States these days. So that's the most likely thing for us. We would expect that that's about 3 years out, and the goal for us is to scale in that meantime, and then be able to be in those conversations to be able to exit that way.
And one last question quickly. What is the cost to plant per acre?
That all depends. It depends on the size. It depends on where we are. It's half as much in Costa Rica and Mexico as it is the US. So I'd rather answer that with a more detailed, hey, where is this and how big are we talking?
Great. That's the end of our time. Thanks so much for a great presentation. We got a nice poll there for you as well. And with that, let's go to our final presenter. We have with us today, Fintegrate. Chris, if you can launch your slides and kick off and ready.
All right. Can you hear me? Can you see the screen?
We see the screen. You're good to go.
Very good. My name is Chris Bishop, the CEO of Fintegrated Technologies. We're a fintech company based in Birmingham, Alabama. We focus on the automation and integration of data into collections and recovery systems, as well as for dispute management, transactional fraud disputes for banks and credit unions in the United States. The problem we have is there's about 9,500 banks and credit unions in the U.S., and believe it or not, they are still using antiquated technology, especially in the areas of collections and recovery. So if you think about delinquent loans, NSF accounts, things they're trying to recover or gain payments on and monitor, the average age of those systems is between 15 and 20 years old. So they're very old, antiquated systems. And with dispute management, with the increase in fraud and disputes, a lot of the banks are still using spreadsheets to track those types of transactions. And in doing so, the regulators and the auditors are really hammering all of our banks and credit unions, right, for better customer service and better clarity into their data and their processes. We have three products that solve the needs in that area. The first one is Fusion CRS. It's for collection and recovery. The second one is Fusion DMS for dispute management. And then our third one is from a previous company or a product from a previous company I've had for merger and acquisition for data conversions. There's been a ton of mergers and acquisitions this year, expected to be a record year. And I'll speak about that a little more in a bit. Our focus really, because our 20 years experience has been based in access, integration, and automation, our focus this year is to really move more towards AI and to automate the entire process of collections and recovery, all the letters, the notices, the posting to the many different systems inside the bank for the account and financial information to automate all of that, as well as disputes to automate that whenever you have a fraudulent dispute or a claim on a credit card, to be able for the end user to handle that from start to finish. We have a large total addressable market of about 5,500 banks and credit unions that fall within our sweet spot. We have banks today that go from 200 billion in assets down to about 100 million, but our real sweet spot is 15 to 20 billion down to about 100 million in assets. So there's 5,500 banks and credit unions in that space, most of which again are running spreadsheets for tracking of disputes. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a sample of some of our customers. We actually have over 100 total customers now. And on the right-hand side of the screen are companies that are the big core companies in the United States that handle the banking core systems. Many of those refer or resell our products and services today. None of these guys have a product or service for delinquency or collections recovery. Our management team here at Fintegrate has been together, some of us for the last 2 or 3 of my companies. Jeff Harper had a successful startup many years ago, sold it about 4 years ago. And Terry Nelson, this is a company we acquired in 2022. Prior to this, as I said, all my companies have been bootstrapped. I had 4 previous companies I've had started and sold in the fintech, kind of in the same space, either to a large public company or a large private equity group. Ray, I'll let you take it from there.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Ray Martin, and I'm one of the founding investors in the company 4 years ago when Chris put it together. And we knew each other from a previous business that we worked together in. Company's had some good, really strong revenue growth. And what we've really put together here is some good software that's out in the market. It's proven product fit. We've got tons of customers that are happy with the product. And we're raising the money now to really go after that addressable market that Chris talked about, the 5,500 banks and credit unions, to go after them really aggressively. And that's what we're raising the funding for. And then as we do that, we expect the revenues and the profitability to increase over time. Before I leave this, the good thing about fintech businesses is you're selling software. It's like any SaaS business. Most of these banks are signing 5 to 7 year contracts. And once they sign up, they usually don't leave, especially if you're doing a good job managing the data for them with your software. So you really build up a nice little annuity here, and in addition to that, every year you build up new business. So it's a great business model. Next slide, Chris, please. So we're doing a convertible note, very straightforward, $12 million valuation cap, 20% discount, post-money valuation, a 3-year term, 7% interest with a minimum investment of 25,000. As I said, most of the financing is going to go to additional salespeople, some marketing expense, some software development, especially as we get towards the end of the year. We get into the AI development, and working capital will probably end up going there as well. Okay, just go back one second, Chris. It's just so we have a hard circle of 600,000, and we have already raised 170, so we're kind of, 3/4 of the way there on our $1 million raise. And so it's gone well. Our friends at 10 Capital have done a fantastic job helping us through this process, and so we're feeling pretty good about getting the closing the rest of this relatively soon. So in terms of exit, in fintech, you really need to get to kind of 3 million to 5 million in revenue to get a respectable revenue multiple. And in our view, respectable revenue multiple is around 10. But we're showing that even at an 8 or a 5 exit revenue multiple, you still, your dollars that you put into here, you still get a pretty good return out of it, plus you're top of the capital stack. So it's a pretty, it's a relatively safe investment with some really good upside. If we can get to that $5 million number, I think we're more in the 10 range. Also, in this industry, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of software companies. There's always consolidation going on. And I mean, we've already had 6 or 7 people approach us, so we're not ready to sell yet. But we think once we get to that $3 to $5 million range in the next 2 years, we think we'll have pretty good exit possibilities out there. So just to sum up, strong revenue growth over the last 3 years. We haven't had a lot of money to spend. We raised 3.2 million. Management put $1 million in cash, and we had friends and family come in 2.2 million. But most of the about 1.3 million of that went to acquire the CRS, the Fusion CRS acquisition in 2021, and then the rest of it has been spent on marketing, getting the software out there in the marketplace, and doing some work on the software. We've got proven software. We now have over 100 customers. Management's had 4 previous bank fintech sold. And management team's very well known in the marketplace, which really helps out a lot. We've got a large but focused addressable market. Management's got skin in the game, and we think we've got some pretty strong exit prospects.
Great presentation, guys. Thanks so much. My first question is, can you talk more about your target customer? Who is the ideal customer, and can you tell us more about them?
Sure. So we target banks and credit unions primarily, and those that are within the $100 million asset on the low side. So like a credit union is very retail focused, and they would never be a client or an opportunity for both our collection and recovery, as well as our dispute management. All the way up, we actually have a $200 billion bank that's an asset, or 200 billion in assets. It's a client with our CRS product, but there really is probably 20 billion in assets and below. So think community banks and credit unions.
And you talk about the exit. Who would buy you, and when would that most likely occur?
So as Ray said, we've had several opportunities early on. I think being known, having done this 4 times in the past, the same guys want to follow and buy in. But some of the opportunities would be some of the core providers I showed on the screen that doesn't have these products potentially. The problem there is they're billion-dollar companies, so we really don't move their needle. A better opportunity would be a private equity or someone like the software aggregators that have other products and services that sell fraud, or collections or payment types products. This would be a good fit to surround and add to their sales bag.
I think time frame wise, 2027 is 2027, 2028. Again, the key is to getting to that 3 to 5 million in revenue. Also, there's a lot of software companies that are not huge, that are that have software in the market to banks and credit unions, and they love to add on. It's very accretive for them to add on another software platform.
And is there a data play here? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so if you think about aggregating all this data from the community banks and credit unions, anonymizing it, there certainly is a data play there to analyze not only fraud, disputes, trends, but immediate patterns as fraud moves through a community or a bank or even a city like that. But the data play for the collection and recovery is to analyze the spending patterns, the heat maps of who's potentially going to be delinquent and who's paying, who's not, and then providing data analytics for sale back to this group of community banks and credit unions about their peers, and whether it be by loan size, by asset type, what type of loan, by bank size, or even geographical payments histories and that type of thing.
Great. Can you talk about the competition? Who is the most the media competitor that you're coming up against?
Sure. So for the dispute management piece for the fraud, there's a company at the very top called Quavo that's the largest 30 banks in the country. We really don't see them because we don't play up in that segment. The other one, Finboa, is in the very smallest banks and credit unions, kind of the low cost provider down there, and we've really focused on the middle market of banks and credit unions. So that's where Finnegrate plays best at, and where we've always served is that space. The companies for our LRS product for dispute management, there's really only two competitors there in the merger and acquisition data conversion, and those are the two companies that I sold previously to Jack Henry and Associates, and one to Connective, which is owned by TA. And then the collection recovery, the core systems for these banking core providers have a collection recovery module, if you will, which is typically comes with the core system, but it's not a full-blown collection and recovery system. So we have seen some banks that would convert to that core module and then come to us later on because it didn't suit their needs.
Right. You talk about the regulatory environment in this sector of the banking industry. How onerous is it? How much liability is there? What's the risk, I guess?
So these are the the lenders, first person lenders. Like these are not third party lenders. So all the things you hear about for, collection and recovery companies and all the rules, those are more for like third party collections companies. Since these banks and credit unions are lenders, we're not governed by a lot of the things you hear about in the news, but they are also audited by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, as well as their state and federal regulators and auditors. So we do have a lot of compliance play in our products to keep them compliant. And along with that comes, if you're compliant, then you don't get red marks or you don't pay the fines and penalties, especially with the dispute management. So.
Yeah, and Finnegrate is subject to very little regulation. It's the banks that we sell to that are subject to the regulation, and we help them. We help them efficiently manage the data that they need to use to stay compliant with the regulators.
Great. And I guess my last question is about the team itself. Can you tell us more about the history of the team there?
Yeah, so my CTO, Jason Alfano, and I have been together with the last two companies. He's co-founder here with us. So we've actually been together through three companies, all total, that I've started and kind of sold off over the years. Terry Nelson was the president of Fusion, which is the company that I bought 3 years ago that had the collection and recovery product. And then Jeff Martin is CGO, and he was president of BSG Financial. They sold that about 6 years ago, and he's been working with us on the sales and marketing growth side. And our
Great.
management, a lot of our employees, by the way, have come to us from the past companies as well. Has come back to work with us and enjoy working kind of in that same group, getting the band back together each time.
Okay. Well, good. Well, that's our 15 minutes. Thanks so much for a great presentation. With that, we'll be setting up breakout rooms for those in the audience. If you want to meet any of these guys, you're welcome to join the breakout room. I'll have a breakout room if you're a startup wanting to talk about our program. If no one comes, I'll be moving around to the other rooms as well. With that, we'll want to thank everybody for a great presentation, great questions from the audience as well, and looking forward to seeing you guys next time. But with that, let's move to breakout rooms and see what else we can learn. Thanks so much.